My name is Dawn Griffin, and I will be talking about the American Renaissance in my presentation. I will discuss the functional literature before the American Renaissance, religion, politics, and culture, and how it affected the American Renaissance, and then I will highlight the authors of the American Renaissance, three of them: Harriet Beecher Stowe, Nathaniel Hawthorne, and Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Before the Civil War, literature played an important part of shaping America. However, the literature in general served as functional literature with a purpose. Literature described the voyages and expeditions of explorers such as Christopher Columbus and Lewis and Clark. Literature described colonial life and the struggles with Native American Indians, like with the writings of William Bradford and Mary Rowlandson. Literature was used to express a person's devotion for God in their sermons and their doctrine. Roger Williams and Edward Taylor are a few. Finally, literature was used to express the political point of view and to express the colonists' growing discontent with England, such with Thomas Paine and Patrick Henry. Although these authors' literature are considered classics, they show a glimpse into the events in American history. The American Renaissance is a romantic period in the American literature and is a mix of literary style and cultural history. It was first coined by F.O. Matheson in his 1941 book. He did not deny the romantic aspects of literature, but discussed a focus on the development of distinctly American literature. Matheson described the Renaissance as a cultural flowering and rebirth. It was when the arts and human possibility rose to new heights. Here is a list of those considered in the American Renaissance canon, but this is not an exhaustive list. Religion played a major theme in the American Renaissance. America was a democratic government that did not have a state religion. Therefore, there were many competing doctrines, some of which were the Second Great Awakening, with circuit riders and camp meetings. Next was deism, which was an intellectual religion that gave way to transcendentalism. The next was the Unitarianism, that they believed in the unity of God but denied the Trinity in Christ. Transcendentalism was very similar to deism. Millerites were similar to Christian denominations, but William Miller preached about Jesus' return between 1843 and 1844. Mormonism was founded by Joseph Smith, and he later wrote the Book of Mormons. Many of these religions and doctrines still exist and continue to shape literature in America. Even though some of the American Renaissance authors did not necessarily write political pieces, some of their pieces inevitably were political. The American Revolution and the forming of the United States of America bolstered national pride. Authors desired to distinguish themselves as a country with social, political, economic, and artistic history. The Panic of 1837 marked a fearful time in American history, while the Civil War caused brothers to fight against brothers. Slavery was not only a human rights issue, but a political issue, such as highlighted by Harriet Beecher Stowe. Women's rights was fought on a political front and also through literary pieces of Margaret Fuller. Culture helped shape the authors of the Renaissance. Immigration increased population and America moved west. Literature consisted mainly of newspaper articles. America wanted to compete with old world literature and create a genteel society, and that's where poems came in, because poems were part of the genteel society and it portrayed a civil and creative society. Harriet was born on June 14, 1811 in Litchfield, Connecticut. Her father was a religious leader and greatly influenced his children. He was an abolitionist and instilled beliefs in his children. Some of his children became ministers and activists. Harriet wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin in 1851, and it became a bestseller. She portrayed the impact of slavery on children through the story of Josiah Henson. The North embraced it, but the South generally despised it. A popular story states that after the Civil War, Harriet met President Abraham Lincoln, and he supposedly greeted her with, "So you are the little woman who wrote the book that started this great war." In any case, she was able to cause readers to set aside the economical aspects of slavery and capture the emotional human side to the cruel truth. that slavery was an institution that could not continue. Her legacy continued as the 60s brought to the forefront the fight for civil rights in America. Nathaniel was born on July 4th, 1804 in Salem, Massachusetts, and he was from a famous town, so he heard about the Salem witch trials. He was also influenced by the writings of John Bunyan, who wrote Pilgrim's Progress. He was a short fiction novelist, but gained fame when he wrote The Scarlet Letter. Some of his literature can be read in the context of a strict Puritan backdrop. He probed into human nature and the darker side of sin. He considered his writings, though, as a romance. He confronted reality instead of turning away, as his characters had a decision to make about their morality and redemption. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was born on February 27, 1807 in Portland, Maine. His mother read aloud to him and his siblings, and he was a model student and an excellent writer. He was an avid reader and was most influenced by Washington Irving's sketchbook, which highlighted native legends and American landscape. He held a position but later resigned to devote more time to his writing. His poems had a musical tone, for he had a gift for rhyme, and he was able to translate joyousness and optimism, which evoked an emotional response in his readers. Longfellow wrote about the American themes, such as history, Native Americans, and tradition. And after a year of expanding west, America had a poet who rivaled those of Europe. As Benjamin Franklin once said, without freedom, there can be no such thing as wisdom, and no such thing as public liberty without the freedom of speech. The authors of the American Renaissance were able to freely express their thoughts and creativity, and in turn shaped American culture, arts, politics, and religion. It also gave Americans a glimpse into the historical roots of America.